Thom Hartmann here on the news. You need to know this. Regulators want to make banking boring again. Today, 5 different regulatory agencies are expected to adopt the Volcker Rule, which would begin to redraw a line between regular banking and Wall Street gambling. The rule is one of the centerpieces of the Dodd-Frank Wall Street Reform Act, and it is seen as a litmus test for the overall strength of that financial reform law. By rebuilding the wall between banking and investing, regulators hope to reduce the risk of another financial meltdown fueled by Wall Street speculation. The banksters have been fighting against the implementation of the Volcker Rule, but for once, the regulators appear to have gotten their way. This new rule includes some very important changes, like banning banks from trading for their own benefit, requiring hedged risks to be specific and identifiable, and ending the practice of rewarding CEOs for prohibited proprietary trading. In other words, it won't be so easy for banksters to make trillions by placing bets against bets, and they won't be able to reward CEOs for illegal activity. But Wall Street is already searching for loopholes in the proposed law, and they will continue to fight this regulation in court. And the Volcker Rule is still a far cry from the banking regulations that existed before the repeal of Glass-Steagall. By passing this rule, regulators are proving that they want real Wall Street reform, but they're not going far enough to prevent another financial meltdown. Nearly 2 years after the 2008 financial crash, Congress passed Dodd-Frank to rein in the banksters, but 2/3 of those regulations have not yet been enacted. To protect the American people and prevent another banking crash, we need to rebuild the wall between banking and gambling. The Volcker Rule is a start, but we need to bring back Glass-Steagall and make banking a safe and boring business once again. In Screwed News, experts say that you shouldn't pay more than 30% of your income on housing, but a record number of Americans are doing just that, paying more. According to a new study by the Joint Center for Housing Studies of Harvard University, more than 20 million Americans are paying more than a third of their income on rent. And over 70% of those live on $15,000 a year are paying more than half of their income on rent. As American wages have stagnated and more people have struggled to survive on poverty wages, the cost of housing has continued to go up. That predicament has left people with no other choice but paying a larger and larger share of their income to put a roof over their heads, which means that they have even less money to spend on other things. That means less money for basic necessities, food and clothing. It means that people have virtually nothing left over to save or invest. This is not just a problem for people trying to get by on poverty wages. It has a broader effect on our entire economy. The solution is simple. Continue the fight to ensure that everyone gets paid a living wage. In the best of the rest of the news, some of the largest tech companies in our nation are calling for government surveillance reform. Apple, Facebook, Microsoft, Google, AOL, Twitter, and Yahoo sent an open letter to President Obama demanding big changes in government spy programs. They wrote, "We urge the U.S. to take the lead and make reforms that ensure that government surveillance efforts are clearly restricted by law, proportionate to the risks, transparent, and subject to independent oversight." These companies have faced a major customer backlash for their compliance with government spying, so they're asking for the president to protect our constitutional right of privacy. These tech giants explain that government surveillance undermines the freedoms that we all cherish. Since Edward Snowden blew the whistle on massive government spying programs, Americans have awakened and are now demanding reform. In the words of our nation's largest tech companies, it's time for a change. According to radcast.org, radiation levels around our nation are fairly close to yesterday's readings, but the Southeast is reporting higher numbers. Taylor's, South Carolina, is reporting an average of 65 counts per minute with spikes of 74. Sharon, Georgia, is around 40 with spikes of 69 counts per minute. In the Midwest, Frederick, Wisconsin, is hovering at 48 counts per minute with spikes of 74. And Colorado Springs is sitting at 63 with spikes to 89 counts a minute. In the Southwest, Borger, Texas, is averaging 39 counts per minute with spikes to 65, and Tucson, Arizona is reporting 50 counts a minute with spikes to 79. In the Northwest, Seattle, Washington is hovering at 30 with spikes of 49 counts a minute, and North Portland, Oregon is at 33 with spikes up to 60. Radcast.org reminds us that their alert level is 100 counts per minute, and some numbers are spiking closer to that. Some areas are spiking closer to that number than they'd like to see. And finally, the war on Christmas is in full swing, and Florida is the latest battleground. Governor Rick Scott has approved the installation of an 8-foot-tall Festivus pole in front of the Florida State Capitol building. After learning that there was a nativity manger and 3 wise men display in front of the Capitol, Florida resident and self-proclaimed militant atheist Chaz Stevens asked permission to erect his own holiday monument. When Mr. Stevens was asked why he wanted to install the pole, he simply said, "I figured that one ridiculous act required another." The 8-foot pole is made up of empty Pabst Blue Ribbon beer cans, and it commemorates the parody holiday based on the TV show Seinfeld. Festivus is celebrated on December 23rd, and it's a non-commercial holiday for the rest of us who don't follow typical religious traditions. Regardless of how we feel about Festivus, we should still be thankful to Chaz Stevens for getting Fox so-called news to cover anything besides Obamacare. That is a true holiday miracle. And that's the way it is today, Tuesday, December 10th, 2013. I'm Thom Hartmann on the news.